Welcome back, y'all. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. It's finally Monday of a game week versus an SEC opponent, so it is now officially football season. I can't wait for this one. I know that y'all can't either. This is huge just because Coach Heupel is going back to his alma mater, the Oklahoma Sooners, down there in Norman. We're going to be traveling on the road. Nico's first road test, Oklahoma's first test versus an SEC opponent, whether it's at home or period. As an SEC program, how are they going to step up? What is the fan base going to be like? I would expect that Norman should be rocking. Of course, our Vol fans will be there in attendance. We always show up and show out, but this is big just because all the players have talked pretty much the entire offseason about how they want to win this one for Heupel, obviously for their brothers on the team and for everyone else in Vol Nation, all the coaches on the staff, all of that good stuff. So this whole week, y'all, we will be breaking things down all the way, all the matchups. So this is the place. If you want to know exactly what should be going on out there on the field, we will keep you up to date. As always, y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be breaking down Oklahoma's offense versus our defense. All right, so first, let me give y'all a 50-foot overhead view of what Oklahoma's offense looks like. It's going to be very similar to ours. We do kind of run it differently. There's going to be some similarities and some differences. Number one, for the things that are similar, both teams will spread the entire field out. Both teams are going to be heavy in using their tight ends. The tight end is going to be very, very important to either one of these offenses. They will also run tempo. Now, I've seen them maybe not go as fast as Tennessee has, but, especially versus Temple, I got to see a good glimpse of it, and they can go at breakneck speeds. So this is something that our defense should be ready for because they've seen it all offseason for several years that they've been on campus for several years going up against our offense. Now, this is as far as some of the differences. I would say, number one, that they use their quarterback to run the football more than we do. Of course, we do use our quarterback, but right now, Jackson Arnold is their leading rusher as far as carries and also with yards. So we're probably never going to be like that. We would prefer to use our running backs, and we've got a stable of them. So that's one of the differences. I would also say that, they do a little bit more of the outside zone scheme where we don't do as much of that. We don't do as many, stretch plays either. So we're going to be a lot more, gap scheme or inside zone, get straight downhill for the most part. And there would be the flip of that. Now, I have seen them starting to run a little bit more gap scheme, and they've had some success with it. So it will be something for us to watch out for coming up in this game. But of course, we will have some answers to everything that they want to do because Coach Heupel knows this offense better than anyone. Now, Oklahoma does have a new offensive coordinator. I think that in the first two games especially, he was being very, very basic with his play calling. Versus Houston, he probably had to open some things up a little bit more, but I would definitely say last weekend, he definitely, opened it up even more. So we've got a good idea of what they like to do. They are going to target the middle of the field very often. We're going to see a whole lot of hitches, a whole lot of short routes close to the line of scrimmage. And I do think that they'll try to stretch the field vertically more coming up versus our Volunteers if they have the time. I saw them doing it more last weekend, and I also feel like Jackson Arnold looked a lot more comfortable and confident doing that. And I believe that they could have some of their star wide receivers coming back to kind of help with all that stuff. We'll break all that down here in just a second. Let's go ahead and take a look at their numbers for the season. And y'all can see Oklahoma's offense is going to be on the left. Our defense is going to be on the right. We will kind of, go through all the rankings and all that good stuff up to this point in the season. Now, obviously, we have not gotten into SEC play just yet. I would say that our strength of schedule, you would have to say that Oklahoma has played a tougher schedule just because they haven't really played anyone that's great, but they've played, relatively solid competition in every single game. Kent State's absolutely awful. They're ranked, dead last in all of FBS. So I think that everyone that Oklahoma has played would probably beat Kent State pretty decent. Temple, that might be kind of a struggle, but I also think that Temple would not beat UT Chattanooga if they were to actually go out there and play. That one would also be close, but I definitely think that NC State would be anybody that Oklahoma has played up to this point. That's just my personal opinion on it. Either way, y'all, just take all of this stuff kind of with a grain of salt because it is going to be a huge difference in a whole lot of these numbers. So starting off with Oklahoma's total offense, they're currently ranked number 108th in the entire country. Our total defense is ranked second in the entire country. Now for the scoring offense for Oklahoma, they're ranked number 39. Our scoring defense is ranked number 3. Down to the passing numbers, Oklahoma is ranked number 114th. Our passing defense is ranked number 5. And Oklahoma is ranked 67th in rushing numbers. And our defense is ranked number 4 as far as rush defense. Now on down to third down conversions. Oklahoma is number 109 in that category. And our Vols are ranked number 2 in that category. For red zone, Oklahoma is number 20th in the country. Our Vols is number 10 in the country, or are number 10 in the country. And then now on down to turnovers. This is the only category that we'll be looking at today that Oklahoma is actually doing a better job than we are in. They are number 43rd in the country as far as turnovers go. And this is just as far as how many turnovers the offense has given up. So only 2 interceptions, no fumbles lost or anything like that. And our Vols are currently ranked number 59. We have 1 interception and we have 3 fumble recoveries. Now let's talk about Oklahoma's key players on offense. Obviously, it's all going to be starting off with Jackson Arnold. He's listed at 6'1", 210 pounds. He is a redshirt freshman. He's going to be number 11 on their roster. Just as far as his passing numbers this season, 484 yards through the air, 5.6 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, completing passes at 62.8%. Like we talked about, he's actually leading the team in rushing. He has 36 carries for 159 yards, averaging 4.4 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns on the ground. Now, I think that he is a baller. I've said this a million times if y'all been paying attention to this channel. I think that he's really good, and he really is the ultimate key to unlock what they would like to do on offense. I think that he can make all the throws. I think that he can extend plays. I haven't necessarily seen him extending plays to throw as much at this point in the season, but if he does that, then I think all of a sudden he just becomes so much more dangerous. Typically, whenever he kind of, once the play sort of, breaks down, he will start to just run. Like he's running just to run, just to get those yards. And he's a dog. He's not afraid to run in between those tackles. He will lower his shoulder. He's got really good speed. I think that, again, he's the key to their offense, but I also feel like he's going to be the key to success for our Volunteers. We've got to find a way to get him bottled up because he's going to be passing the ball more than anybody else. Obviously, he's also going to be running the football more than anybody else, as long as things kind of stay the same as they have been. Now, one of my questions has been, will he run between those tackles versus our defense? Because we got some real dogs out there that will try to, not necessarily injure, definitely not injure him. I know that they wouldn't try to do that, but they will try to hurt him, right? Like they're going to try to inflict pain on him, and that is part of the game. So we'll see how long does he continue to run if he gets whacked a couple of times early on in this game. And, will their coaching staff say, hey, look, dude, you need to stop trying to run, okay? And if you do run, you need to be sliding, you need to be trying to get out of bounds. With all that being said, we got to be careful just because, of course, with quarterbacks, those refs are going to be ready to throw that whistle. So we have to be careful with how we're handling him. But if we can get some good, clean shots on him early on, this game could be over with very, very soon. And of course, we will, break down their offensive line, some guys that might be coming back here once we get done with all of these key players. But Jackson Arnold is for sure number 1. Now, on to the next player. We have Javonte Burns. He's a running back, listed at 6 feet tall, 207 pounds. He's a junior. He's number 2 on their roster this season. He has 31 carries for 126 yards, averaging 4.1 yards per carry. Now, he runs hard, okay? I think he does a pretty good job in pass blocking, things like that. He is a little bit smaller. He's about 200 pounds. I guess that's close to what, a couple of our running backs are. But their running backs aren't big guys. They have good speed, not very shifty. I don't think any of them are. But, I think that he's got pretty good vision. Again, he's more of a straight line runner. So as they're kind of running some of that, some of those zone plays, stretches, things like that, where he's looking for the cutback, I think that that's where he's going to be the most successful at. It's going to be very important for our linebackers to get into their run fits and just make sure that we're coming downhill, try to, beat them to the spot. And if we can do that, I think that we should be able to bottle up what they like to do on the ground, because as we saw with all their stats this season, they haven't done a great job of running the football, period. Now, the next player is going to be Taylor Tatum, and he is another running back listed at 5'10", 206 pounds. He is a freshman. He's number 8 on their roster. He's had 15 carries for 102 yards, averaging 6.8 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns on the ground. He might really be their best overall back. I think that they've got a few that, they're SEC caliber guys for sure. But I think that he might give them a little bit more bang for their buck. It'll be interesting to see, will he play more in this game, especially if Tennessee does what we normally do and stop the run. It's hard to run on this Tennessee defense, and not too many teams have had success doing it. I think that our run defense this season is better than anything that we've seen. So, we'll know for sure how real all of that is, I feel like, kind of coming out of this game. But I would expect that we should hold them somewhere around what we did to NC State. I think that they're very similar to NC State as far as the offensive line. And, I would give a slight edge to their running backs just as far as being better athletes, bigger, faster, stronger, things like that. But, again, I think this will be a test and a challenge for us. Now, on to the next player. We have Deion Burks, who is a wide receiver listed at 5'9", 194 pounds. Redshirt junior, he's number 6 on their roster. This season, he's had 22 catches for 169 yards, 7.7 yards per catch with 3 touchdowns. He is their leading wide receiver. He's definitely not a big guy, but he's strong. I think I had heard somewhere he squats like 500 and he benches like 405. I could be off on those numbers, but it's something like that. So he's just one of those incredible athletes. He's small, but he's strong. He's sturdy. I think that he is a dog. He's very fast. He ran the 60 meters, 100 meters, and I think also maybe the 200. Could be off on that as well. But he is a true, legitimate track guy. He's a speed guy. They haven't used him really at all, on anything vertical. It's been a whole lot of, hey, we're going to run some hitches to him, throw him the ball. And the craziest thing about it is those hitches have kind of come in the middle of the field. So it'll be interesting to see if our linebackers can come up and just kind of like hold him up while the rest of the team rallies to him, because I don't think that we've got any linebacker that, is fast enough to kind of stick with him out in the open field. We will have to rely on our technique. Now, we do have some guys like, I'm going to say, man, AC, I think he might be kind of close just as far as speed goes. And also Caleb Perry, those are two guys that are probably sub 4.5, somewhere in the 4.4 range. And, maybe high 4.3s whenever they're really training. So we do have some linebackers that are big, that are fast, that are physical. And we'll see what happens. I think that they'll try to use him a lot more on the outside in this game, get the ball to him on some screens, maybe some speed sweeps, things like that. That's, those should be the expectations for him. Now on down to the last player that we'll talk about, just as far as our key players. I'm going to go with Bauer Sharp, who is their tight end, listed at 6'4", 243 pounds. He is a redshirt junior. He's number 10 on their roster. This season, he's had 10 catches for 80 yards, averaging 8 yards per catch, and he has 1 touchdown. So he is their leading receiver as far as tight ends go. I like his game, man. I think he's got some savviness to him. He's definitely tough. He's a dog, but not just about him catching passes. I think he does a good job as a blocker. Now, you can see he's 6'4", 243. I mean, that's about the size of our tight ends. I would say on film, he looks a little bit smaller than our guys, but it's hard to tell until they get out on the same field. So said all that just to say, obviously, man, we've played SEC ball. We've been in the SEC forever. So our guys understand what to do up against guys, players that are bigger. Like, we understand how to use our leverage, all that good stuff. I don't think he's going to be a mismatch problem for our linebackers or for our secondary, safeties, guys like that. Maybe if he gets matched up versus our star players. I would say probably more so Boo Carter's, because Boo's a little bit smaller, but he might be the better athlete over Christian Harrison. So that'll be one to watch. I know that they do a really good job of using their tight ends. So it'll be interesting to see what types of wrinkles will they have for Bauer in this game. Now, let me take a look here real quick, y'all, at my notes, because there are a few players that could end up coming back for this game. I think that they've held some players out, key players, which is why they're not on this list, is because I'm not 100% sure if they will be going this weekend or not. The number one player that I want to talk about is going to be Nick Anderson, and he's a wide receiver, listed at 6'4", 216 pounds. He's a redshirt sophomore. He will be number 4 on their roster. Last season, he had 38 catches for 798 yards, 10 touchdowns, averaging 21 yards per catch. I think that he's a guy that's big. He's twitchy. Maybe not as twitchy as like a Chris Brazzell. He's not going to be as fast as a Dante Thornton, but he runs really good routes. I think he's smooth. I think he's tough. I think he's got it's got a good dog to him. So maybe he could pose, some problems to our defense. And, maybe not even necessarily problems. I think that we can cover them just, based off of the way that they like to run their scheme. I think that we can handle him, one-on-one. I don't see him. He is a fast guy, with, size and all that type of stuff, but I don't think that he's faster than our corners. And he typically has played on the outside. I haven't seen anything with him lining up, in the slot. So probably won't be an issue where he's going to get lined up versus either of our safeties or, nickel players or star players. So I think that our cornerbacks should be able to handle him and just kind of minimize what he likes to do. We already know that Coach Banks has great game plans for players like this. Now, the difference is going to be that Oklahoma has a few more players that we will have to definitely keep an eye out on. So it might not be as easy as it was versus NC State and number 10 for their team, where we can just shut down one guy. I don't think that that's going to happen. But also, man, I don't know exactly what his injury was, but if this is his first game coming back, you have to ask, how much has he been practicing? I don't know that for sure either. And, how ready is he going to be to actually go? But just because, man, it's different practicing versus an actual game, especially an ACC game with, I wouldn't say all the, stakes at risk, but it is going to be very, very high stakes in this game. So we'll see. Is he going to be, a little bit rusty if he does go in this game? I am expecting that if he's anywhere near healthy, that they'll probably try to get him out there, as opposed to saying, look, we're just going to wait until later on in the season to get him in. Just because if Oklahoma loses this one, they have a very tough schedule left. So I guess you could look at that either way. Let's go on to the next person right here. We have I hope I'm saying his name right. And Drell Anthony, he's a wide receiver listed at 6'1", 186 pounds. He's a senior. He's going to be number 5. Now, last season, he had 27 catches for 429 yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 15.9 yards per catch. And he's a little bit more of, the guy that you throw it to get the first downs. He kind of puts me in mind of a Keaton. He's not as fast as Keaton was. I think Keaton is like a 4.4 guy. I would say that Anthony is probably about a 4.5, close to a 4.6 guy. So, I think that he does make good, tough catches. He's got good body control, things like that. I mean, I would not say he's a player for us to necessarily have to worry about, but the whole point with this is their offense could look different just because these are some taller guys, whereas everyone that Oklahoma has been using up to this point, they've been a little bit more, like 5'9", 5'10" types of guys, smaller players. So maybe this does pose a little bit more of a threat, or maybe Oklahoma feels more comfortable opening up their playbook, going down the field, things like that. Now, let's also talk about some of the offensive linemen that could come back this week. I'm going to start off with Branson Hickman, who is a center, and he is a redshirt senior listed at 6'2", 291 pounds. Is going to be number 51 on their roster. Now, he's missed, I want to say that he left in the Temple game, which was the first game of the season for Oklahoma, with a high ankle sprain. Would definitely expect for him to try to go in this one just because Oklahoma's biggest issue, I think, with the offense has been because the offensive line has been missing so many pieces. I mean, they've been putting people all over the place, and they've kind of been rotating them. And we even saw last weekend, or, on this past Saturday, that they started to get gassed towards the end of that game, and they just did not look the same at all. But I will say this, they looked like they were gelling a little bit more at the start of that game, like really for the whole first half. They look like a completely different offensive line. Albeit, the Green Wave's front is nothing like ours. I think that we probably have the best in the whole country. We'll see if we can get that proven coming up this weekend. But I would expect for him to try to go as long as he can just kind of deal with the pain and things like that. But a high ankle sprain, that's kind of a serious injury for sure, because it can linger and it can be one of those nagging problems for the rest of the year. But they've got a couple more offensive linemen that I want to talk about. Jake Taylor, who is an offensive tackle, listed at 6'6", 301 pounds. He is a redshirt sophomore, I believe. He's number 79, and he's had multiple issues, it sounds like, dating back to spring maybe. He could potentially try to give it a go in this game. The next player is going to be Troy Everett. He's a guard, listed at 6'3", 310 pounds. Redshirt junior, number 52 on their roster. He had knee surgery back in March. Now, I don't know if he is going to be ready. I'm just kind of, throwing some names out there that I've heard, hey, there is a chance that they could play, just so that everyone is prepared in case these guys come back. But talking about the offensive line, y'all, bringing guys in, I mean, some of these, I would say that these guys are all veterans, so they might be okay just to get thrown back into the mix. But with the offensive line, you've got to kind of have some time playing together and gel before you're playing at your highest level. So it'll be interesting just to see how all of that looks if Oklahoma tries to throw in some players that might be a little bit rusty. Again, I'm sure that, anyone that they have been planning on playing for this game has been practicing as soon as they could, been getting in as many reps as they possibly could. But it's just a difference between game speed and practice speed. All right, now we have a good understanding of what Oklahoma's offense looks like from top to bottom. What challenges do they pose to our defense? Number one, it starts with their quarterback, Jackson Arnold. Whenever you have a quarterback that can make things happen with their legs, also has a really good arm, and is tough, I mean, that is a challenge in and of itself. So what Tennessee is going to have to do is take advantage of the offensive line that Oklahoma rolls out there, whoever it is. We've got to continue to beat them up on every single play. Now, I would expect that Oklahoma is going to start the game off maybe with some sort of a wrinkle, because I want to say in every single game this season, they've done some sort of a sweep or something like that. It's been something very similar to that almost on every single opening play, maybe outside of Temple. Don't quote me on that, but I know for sure in the previous 2 games, that's exactly what they did. So are they setting something up? Probably. Maybe they do some sort of a, jet sweep pass or something just to kind of get things going early on, in this game. So I would say that for sure we need to watch out for all that type of stuff. We have to play fundamentally sound, but it all starts up front with that front four. We got to beat that offensive lineup. And, hopefully once we get into the second half, their depth kind of starts to dwindle. Guys are already, banged up, playing hurt. I saw them wincing a whole lot last weekend or, this past Saturday. But we've got waves of defensive linemen. I mean, we've got 14, 15 guys that we can rotate in, and it won't be that much of a drop-off really from the first to the fourth string. And I'll even say this. I think that our second string front four might be the most disruptive out of all of those groups. So that's where I think Tennessee could have a lot of success at. And, people are going to talk a whole lot about those sacks, things like that. I would expect for us to get to Jackson Arnold just because, man, Oklahoma is averaging giving up 3 sacks per game. And I believe that Tennessee is averaging somewhere around like 1 point something sacks per game so far. We know that versus UT Chattanooga, they were cutting us. We couldn't get to the quarterback. I mean, the ball was coming out instantly. It's snap, throw it, snap, hand it off, something, right? So I don't think that Oklahoma is going to have the luxury of doing things like that in this game, or it will probably get out of hand very, very quickly because we're already coming downhill. That type of stuff is not going to work. You need to be setting something up if that's how you're going to run your offense. And then also, man, if you look at the game versus Kent State, our starters only played, I mean, they didn't play very long at all. So I think that we will be able to definitely get to Jackson Arnold, but also, man, we've got to do a really good job of stopping their running game. If you stop a team's run game and make them have to throw the ball all the time, then all of a sudden, man, I mean, it could get really, really out of hand very, very quickly. So if Oklahoma can't find a way to run the ball, right, whether that's with Jackson Arnold or whatever it is, they have to find a way to get some positive yardage on a consistent basis running that football, or this one's going to be over with very, very quickly. So that's how that part of it looks. But now let's talk about our second level with those linebackers, because like we said, man, their tight ends will be a big part of what they like to do. They'll kind of start them off blocking or hide them inside of hide them inside of their sets and just kind of, sneak them out. So we have to be very disciplined there. We already know that Kenan Pili, who's 26 years old, played a ton of football. He understands it, right? Like his mind is, it's obviously at a different level than most of these kids out here playing. So he's going to know what to look for. I know that he will have that entire group ready. Would definitely expect that we have the advantage as far as athleticism goes. If you talk about their tight ends for sure, but also maybe a little bit with their running backs. You know what I mean? I haven't seen a whole lot of wiggle out of those guys. I feel like our linebackers are probably just as fast, maybe a step slower with some of them, as their running backs are. So we should be able to, maybe beat them to the spot, being able to ID their plays and things like that. Again, you can kind of tell what's coming. It's only so much that you can do. It's not complicated necessarily, but you just have to play sound, disciplined, fundamental football. And I feel like our linebackers have gotten better and better at that every single week. A lot of the things that maybe could cause us some issues, they don't really do a whole lot of that, right? Like we've had more issues with the stretch plays, with the outside zone plays, which again, we've looked better at this season, but they've done a whole lot more of the, inside zone stuff. I mean, we blow that type of stuff up, no question. And then also if they want to pull some, guards, tackles, whatever, run some power plays, I know that we'll be able to, kind of follow those plays. We just have to make sure that we're being disciplined on the backside, just because they will also run some speed sweeps with their quarterbacks. They will do, zone reads, read options, things like that. So again, it's going to be all about discipline with our front seven. Now, talking about our secondary versus their wide receivers. Well, if we're going to see the same wide receivers that we've seen for the first 3 weeks of the season, I love that matchup because our guys are bigger. I think they're faster. I think they're stronger. I think our guys are tougher and they will play physical. I think that we might, make Oklahoma's wide receivers, and I, kind of hate to put this out there like that, but we might kind of make them, get some alligator arms like, nah, I don't want to catch the ball no more, because we do come downhill. We are going to thump you. And I think that our secondary has done a great job in tackling in open space. So I feel fine there. Now, we haven't been challenged a whole lot down the field, but anytime that we have been challenged down the field, especially with our cornerbacks, I mean, forget about it. It's been beautiful coverage. So I would expect nothing less, again, just because we are bigger than those guys and we are just as fast, if not faster, than all of their wide receivers that they've had out there so far. Now, if any of the guys that we talked about that could end up playing in this one, as far as the wide receivers go, one of them 6'1", the other one's 6'4", that could be a little bit more of a challenge, but I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a problem because all of our wide receivers are about that big, probably outside of Squirrel. I think everyone else is like 6 feet and up. We got several guys that are 6'3", 220 and up, so we've had a whole lot of experience going up against that on a very consistent basis. And I think that, we can match up versus whatever type of a body that a team wants to throw out there to us. I would not expect for us to play too much man-to-man coverage. Now, Oklahoma will probably get into some sets and formations that might force us to play some man coverage. But if we are playing man, we'll probably be blitzing, and that should be a nightmare for the offensive line. So we should have something for pretty much everything that Oklahoma wants to do versus us. I definitely think that Coach Heupel might be a little bit more involved with the defense this week. Of course, he's always involved with everything. Let me not try to paint the picture of him being an offensive coach because I know that he would not like that. But I do feel like, he's going to, kind of talk with Coach Banks some like, hey, look, these are some of the things that Oklahoma might have been hiding, right? So just kind of keep a lookout for that. But I mean, look, Coach Banks has got it. I think he might be top 3 defensive coordinator in the entire country. We're seeing what he's built with this team. And I just think that at the end of the day, our defense is going to wear down their offense because, like we talked about, we are so much deeper. And if the game is close through, we'll say 2.5 quarters, we should be able to start pulling away, right? The kind of like the same thing that we saw with Oklahoma in Saturday's game where they were up like 21 points, I think, in the second half, maybe about midway through that third quarter, Tulane starts to come back. I think that the same thing could happen. The difference is going to be that our defense has a whole lot of dudes, whereas Tulane might have had a few here and there, but I wouldn't even call all their starters dudes. All of ours are dudes for sure. So that's about how I feel about this matchup, just talking about Oklahoma's offense versus our defense. Y'all let me know y'all's thoughts down in the comment section. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.